Great. So, question 177 dashing. We're gradually now moving into. Um, this is the last one, I think. When I say the last one in terms of substantive testing, because we've tested everything, it's just trade receivables now. As you can imagine, we must carry out these circularizations, which you'll be reading about. We were writing out and sending out letters, with permission, of course, to our to the business's debtors and saying, listen, because I mean, again, this is it's on the statement of financial positions. We're talking about valuation. We're talking about existence. We're talking about completeness. We're talking about rights and obligations. There's classification. So again, ACA cover. There's well, of course, analytical. AEA will help us. Whatever we will check this year's, the last year's, blah blah blah. Lots to do, but the key point is that in terms of this question of circularization, which is what they're asking, we want to find out whether or not you have the rights to these trade receivables, and whether or not they are valued at that amount. Because, as you can imagine, if you have potential bad debts, then we need to write them down. So the key argument is that we're sending those off. And the replies to be sent to the audit team. And then you're basically chasing it up, really. So, and typically, again, I think the thing here with these is typically you could have evidence by looking post year end at the bank statement. You're just trying to make this work. You're trying to prove a figure. So you go about trying to prove the figure. You might have a relationship with the customer already. Just prove that figure ultimately. And for those you can't get, even if you could, just get some sampling done. But now I don't know if it's about posting. I think emails, um, what's the word? Encrypted emails or secure emails will also suffice, I imagine. Okay, great. And then what we have here in terms of substantive, yes, for receipt. Again, like I said here, what we're trying to do here is to ensure that that trade receivable figure is true and fair. So you're saying that you're owed 10 million at the year end. Well, we want to see post year end how much came in. If 10 million came in after the year end, then we can argue, yes, that this is a fair valuation. If only 7 million came in, prudence asks us to go back and write down 3 million of that. If you can imagine the argument here, which is why you're looking at after-date receipts, because that's evidence of what it is you're claiming is yours at this date. So 31st of December is the date you're claiming you owe 10 million. Post that, we have other events coming through. Okay, great. So yes, and that's what's kind of happening here. And then of course we may have classification. We may have different types of debts and things that just trying to see if classification features quite heavy with trade receivables. Yes, you might be able to have to classify your range of trade receivables. Why not? You might have different types of trade receivables and different classifications, and that's fine. Accuracy: get a few, take a few out, and actually walk through them, and literally go from the sales order all the way till the end, and then actually do the discounting of those invoices and see just walk through a sample of invoices and actually recalculate the actual what's going on the invoices themselves to be sure that the final figure that's been claimed is what it is. Now, of course, with this completeness, you want to make sure that, because as you can imagine, all I have to do is debit trade receivables and credit revenue, and I have inflated assets and I've inflated income and therefore profits. So I want to make sure that these two go hand in hand with this cutoff testing. I want to make sure that only the invoices for that period are included in that period, and I'm not including invoices for the next year in my year to make me look good. I also want to make sure that all the sales returns have been taken out, if you like, and if you like, not this sort of leaving sales returns in there, or sorry, not putting sales returns in there to keep your trade receivables inflated. Again, like I said, this is almost existence. We've done that, this kind of walkthrough. And this is more disclosure situation where you have any sort of, I don't know, some business going on with the trade receivables. Maybe they've been sold off, maybe a loan's been secured on them. that sort of thing. So I mean, this is all your work. I'm not even adding any value here. This is you've written out all these answers, which are very good. Substantive procedures for redundancy. Yes, again, you can only declare. You must make an announcement, and you've written that very clearly. Board minutes, because IAS um, in in provision to create a provision. Um, Provision is IAS, I think 37. So for 37 to apply, you need to have made that declaration to your employees that you're going to be firing. Right, so you have that. Otherwise, it has to be a disclosure. So that's what your key point here is. You want to highlight that if they haven't made that, then you want to see the paperwork that's leading to that. So great. Now you move into an important area here, which is about this question of qualification. Now, I'm just going to go over here. This is important here. Here, you want to go. You don't forget this. This is what the consideration of. I'm sure you know this. You want to remember this. Profit before tax, 5 to 10%. You just want to know this. This is just necessary. This is what determines whether or not. These are the benchmarks. These are the guidelines, and that's what you're using for your exam. So very quickly, kind of highlighting that. You've talked about it already, which is good. But the key point is this is on page 105 of your textbook, so make sure you're comfortable with that. So the key point here is that it's actually very, just going through this, and this will guide you for all the rest, as you can imagine. If we're not happy, well, there's two reasons why we may not be happy: material misstatement, or we just don't have access to the information. We can't gain access, no access, or we don't have evidence of we can't actually see the information or see the evidence. So you have a scenario where it's just material. It's just a one-off. It's not pervasive. So if you like, it's just on the one balance. I always like to call this the one balance. Only one balance is affected. So you have a material misstatement on one balance. All the other balances are fine. All the other balances are fine. So we say that it is qualified. When we say qualified, we say everything else is fine except for this one balance we're not happy. So we're qualifying our sort of, if you like, approval of the accounts or the cleanliness of the accounts. So we're saying they're qualified, except, so the statement says everything, the accounts are true and fair except for this one balance that we disagree on because of the difference which is what you've done here. You can see you've said it's a material matter because it's 7.5% of profit and 1.1%, and that's greater than what is acceptable, if you like here. Is 1.1 was more than this, 7.5%. So it did exceed one of the boundaries, although this is still all judgment. But the key point is that you felt it was material. So because it's just the one balance, it's just qualified except for. If there were several balances you weren't happy with, then we would argue that it was pervasive. So you'd give an adverse opinion. You would just say that the accounts are just not true and fair. They're not true and fair because there's a lot of balances we disagree on. The same thing kind of applies when you have no access. If you have no access on just one balance, it's just qualified. So as again, it's except for, I'm happy with everything else except for me not being able to gain access to inventory. Inventory is the only thing I'm not happy with. I haven't seen it. But imagine you haven't seen a number of things. You just give what was referred to as a disclaimer of opinion. I can't give an opinion because I can't see any evidence of many things. I just can't see it. So you have the two things, material misstatement and no access, or if you like, you can't see the evidence, and then you have this sort of grid. And so you've done it. So please review these chapters again. These are critical because you come close to the exam. But this is a bit of the exam that always gets examined. It's just what it is. But the more comfortable you are with the process and you're doing examples, you'll be better. You'll fine. But good work.